Let's see if this works.
Junk Shop Library's Improv Bible Study. Are you ready for this? All right. Well, welcome everybody once again here to the Junk Shop Library channel, home of Improv Bible Study. The Bible study where we read every word and subject every word to the scrutiny and the ridicule it so richly deserves. All right, quick bit of housekeeping before we get started today. We just crossed a little milestone here in the library. We just crossed 50 subscribers. Actually, yes, crossed 50. We've got 51 now. There are 51 people out there who care about some nerd in a library room ranting about how sucky the Bible is. It's mind-boggling. Quite a few of those subscribers' presence here with us is due in large part to Neil the 604 Atheist, who had myself and my wife on his Deconversion Stories show the other night. We all had a blast, and so thank you, Neil, for the terrific time that we had, for the opportunity to tell our stories, and for the exposure that it gave our little corner of the world. Somebody else, who am I forgetting to plug? Number 51, who runs a website called Love is a Fetish. Everything just like it's spelled, no spaces, no weird punctuation. If you're at all into BDSM or alternative lifestyles, make sure you check that out. They put out really phenomenal content. Absolutely none of it is safe for work. There's more text than pictures, but your IT people can read as well as see. My hands are clean. All right. Well, I think that's all the housekeeping we've got. So, without any further ado, we will turn today to the 10th chapter of the book of Joshua. Let's dive right in, shall we? Chapter 10. Now it came to pass, when Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, had heard how Joshua had taken Ai, and had utterly destroyed it, as he had done to Jericho and her king, so he had done to Ai and her king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel, and were among them, that they feared greatly, because Gibeon was a great city, as one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all the men thereof were mighty. Wherefore Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, sent unto Hoham. Hoham? Apparently so. Hoham, king of Hebron, and unto Piram, king of Jarmuth, and unto Japhia, king of Lachish, and unto Debir, king of Eglon, saying, Come up unto me, and help me, that we may smite Gibeon, for it hath made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel. Therefore the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon, gathered themselves together, and went up, they and all their hosts, and encamped before Gibeon, and made war against it. And the men of Gibeon sent unto Joshua to the camp to Gilgal, saying, Slack not thy hand from thy servants, come up to us quickly, and save us, and help us, for all the kings of the Amorites that dwell in the mountains are gathered together against us. So Joshua ascended from Gilgal, he and all the people of war with him, and all the mighty men of valor. And the Lord said unto Joshua, Fear them not, for I have delivered them into thine hand. There shall not a man of them stand before thee. Joshua therefore came unto them suddenly, and went up from Gilgal all night. And the Lord discomfited them before Israel, and slew them with a great slaughter at Gibeon, and chased them along the way that goeth up to Beth-horon, and smote them to Azekah and unto Makkedah. And it came to pass, as they fled from before Israel, and were in the going down to Beth-horon, that the Lord cast down great stones from heaven upon them unto Azekah, and they died. There were more which died with hailstones than they whom the children of Israel slew with the sword. Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou, moon, in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down about a whole day. And there was no day like that before it or after it, that the Lord hearkened unto the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. And Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, unto the camp at Gilgal. But these 5 kings fled, and hid themselves in a cave at Makkedah. And it was told to Joshua, saying, The 5 kings are found hid in a cave at Makkedah. And Joshua said, Roll great stones upon the mouth of the cave, and set men by it for to keep them. And stay ye not, but pursue after your enemies, and smite the hindmost of them. Suffer them not to enter into their cities, for the Lord your God hath delivered them into your hand. And it came to pass, when Joshua and the children of Israel had made an end of slaying them with a very great slaughter, till they were consumed, that the rest which remained of them entered into fenced cities. And all the people returned to the camp to Joshua at Makkedah in peace. None moved his tongue against any of the children of Israel. Then said Joshua, Open the mouth of the cave, and bring out those 5 kings unto me out of the cave. And they did so, and brought forth those 5 kings unto him out of the cave, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon. And it came to pass, when they brought out those kings unto Joshua, that Joshua called for all the men of Israel, and said unto the captains of the men of war which went with him, Come near, put your feet upon the necks of these kings. And they came near, and put their feet upon the necks of them. And Joshua said unto them, Fear not, nor be dismayed. Be strong and of good courage, for thus shall the Lord do to all your enemies against whom ye fight. And afterward Joshua smote them, and slew them, and hanged them on 5 trees, and they were hanging upon the trees until the evening. And it came to pass at the time of the going down of the sun, that Joshua commanded, and they took them down off the trees, and cast them into the cave wherein they had been hid, and laid great stones in the cave's mouth, which remain until this very day. And that day Joshua took Makkedah, and smote it with the edge of the sword, and the king thereof he utterly destroyed. Them and all the souls that were therein he let none remain, and he did to the king of Makkedah as he did unto the king of Jericho. Then Joshua passed from Makkedah, and all Israel with him, unto Libnah, and fought against Libnah, and the Lord delivered it also, and the king thereof, unto the hand of Israel. And he smote it with the edge of the sword, and all the souls that were within he let none remain in it, but did unto the king thereof as he did unto the king of Jericho. And the Lord passed from Libnah, and all Israel with him, unto Lachish, and encamped against it, and fought against it. And the Lord delivered Lachish into the hand of Israel, which took it on the 2nd day, and smote it with the edge of the sword, and all the souls that were within, according to all that he had done to Libnah. Then Horam king of Gezer came up to help Lachish, and Joshua smote him and his people, until he had left him none remaining. And from Lachish Joshua passed unto Eglon, and all Israel with him, and they encamped against it, and fought against it, and they took it on that day, and smote it with the edge of the sword, and all the souls that were within he utterly destroyed that day, according to all that he had done to Lachish. And Joshua went up from Eglon, and all Israel with him, unto Hebron, and they fought against it, and they took it, and smote it with the edge of the sword, and the king thereof, and all the cities thereof, and all the souls that were within, he left none remaining, according to all that he had done to Eglon, but destroyed it utterly, and all the souls that were therein. And Joshua turned, and all Israel with him, to Debir, and fought against it. And he took it, and the king thereof, and all the cities thereof, and they smote them with the edge of the sword, and utterly destroyed all the souls that were within. He left none remaining, as he had done to Hebron, so he did to Debir, and to the king thereof, as he had done also to Libnah, and to her king. So Joshua smote all the country of the hills, and of the south, and of the vale, and of the springs, and all their kings. He left none remaining, but utterly destroyed all that breathed, as the Lord God of Israel commanded. And Joshua smote them from Kadesh Barnea even unto Gaza, and all the kings of Goshen even unto Gibeon. And all these kings and their land did Joshua take at one time, because the Lord God of Israel fought for Israel. And Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, unto the camp at Gilgal. And there we have a little bit of the old ultra-violence. Joshua, 10th chapter. Okie dokie. Well, for those of you who were starting to get worried nothing would happen in this book, Joshua. For those of you who thought old man Abraham was the consummate warlord of the Old Testament, Joshua. For those of you who thought that horrific war crimes and overkill were a recent innovation in the history of mankind, Joshua. Plus, murder hail. Hailstones that killed more people than the Israelites did in a battle, which, as we know, is going some. And after the battle, wherein the armies of 5 whole cities and their surrounding territories were annihilated, their kings, leading as kings are wont to do from the rear, went and hid themselves in a cave and thought they got away with it. But then someone came creepsy and tricksy and saw them there and went to Joshua and said, "They're hid in a cave." And Joshua said, "Well, they like caves, do they? Fill in the mouth of the cave with rocks." So the people of Israel did as the Lord said through Joshua. And when Joshua had done with his massacre, he turned to his army and said, "Hey, remember that cave over there that I just had you fill in the mouth of with rocks to trap the 5 kings? They said, "Yep, we did exactly what you said." They said, "I want you to dig them out and bring them to me." And the mighty men of valor went and moved all the rocks away that they had just moved into place in a big hurry to keep the kings trapped inside there. Took the kings out, said, "Hey, we're going to go visit Joshua." The kings have got to be just absolutely thrilled at this prospect. And sure enough, this was not a mission of mercy, nor was this a pardoning expedition. This was a chop off their heads and hang their bodies in trees as an example and as crow food until eventide kind of expedition. And then he cut the bodies down at the evening and put them back in the cave and covered it back up with rocks. You know, this had to be a running joke for at least a couple of years among some of the captains of Joshua's army. Anytime Joshua calls, says, "Hey, Fred, Bob, Sam I am, come here, I got a task for you." They got to look at each other and go, "I hope it's not more rock moving." You remember that time we did all the rock moving? Then we had the rock moving back, and then we had the rock moving over again just so he could have the oh, dear, dear, dear. Let's see. Oh, and the stupid miracle. The sun standing still in the sky. Now, first of all, impossible. We know this because of gravity. The sun does not stand still in the sky. The sun does not stand still at all. Why this bizarre little detail was written into this story, we'll never know, unless, I guess, let's see, who were they fighting at this time? See, they just had the Hailstone Massacre at Azekah. The Great Army. Oh, the Gibeonites. Okay. So the king of Gibeon was the one who called the 5 cities together, called together the heads of the 5 families. So that's likely the biggest army that's been raised in that area in living memory. And so it might have strained credulity for any number of the Israelites, even with God on their side and a freak hailstorm, might have strained credulity or credibility. Anyway, might have been a hard one to swallow that even somebody as war-savvy and ferocious as Joshua was able to wipe out that entire army in one day. So they decided to write in the much more believable sun parked itself and did not move for one entire day while the moon hung out in the valley of Agenor element. All right, so we got the stupidest miracle and the easiest to disprove. Yeah, and there was no day like that since. Now that I believe. All right, everybody ran away to hide, and Joshua did the massive earth moving thing and killed all the 5 kings. And then he went up to the walled cities where everybody had fled screaming in terror and broke down the cities. One of them took him 2 whole days to kill everybody therein. And he wiped out everything that breatheth. Killed them all. Killed them all. Every single mother-loving one of them. The entire countryside roundabout. Utterly destroyed all the souls that were within. Utterly destroyed all that breathed. And you have this weird little house that Jack built thing where they go to the next city and they smote it with the edge of the sword and they killed everybody therein and they killed the king just as they did at the last place. And they went on to the next place and they smote it with the edge of the sword and they killed all the people that were within and they killed the king just like they did with the last place. And that goes on for quite some time. And once Joshua has killed everybody in the 5 townships and surrounding countryside, he goes back to Gilgal to rest. And that's all that happens in chapter 10. Pretty skippable, you know. I didn't necessarily have to do an episode on this one, but I figured for the sake of continuity. Yeah. Great, koogly moogly. All right, well, I think that may have been the most massacreiest massacre chapter we've had so far. We'll see what happens when we reconvene next for chapter 11. We will do that on, today is Tuesday, Thursday. Anyone just joining us and new to the channel, we do our doggonedest to get a chapter out every Tuesday and every Thursday. We just had a little bobble in the schedule the last couple of weeks because of stuff that's of no interest to anybody but the librarian and his wife. Just some personal stuff that had to be attended to that just completely bedazzled the schedule. But we'll be back on Thursday, the good Lord willing and the creek don't rise, for chapter 11. Don't see how it could be as interesting or as eventful as Chapter 10, but you never know. If you have not yet poked the Pope to subscribe, please do so at this time. Throw me those thumbs up, get into fights in the comments below, all that kind of good YouTube-y stuff. And until we congregate here again, everybody take care, be safe, stand against hate, and don't, for God's sake, step in the drama. Bye now.